What's up, everybody? How we doing today? We're back again with another fun video. This one will definitely spark some fun in the comments. I'm really excited to see what everyone has to say about this because we're all entitled to our own opinions. So in this video, we'll be talking about the top 7 worst Star Wars The Clone Wars action figures. Oh my god, it was so much fun to make this video because there's some really bad ones and there might be some mediocre ones, but without further ado, let's get right into it. Alrighty, everybody. We're going to kick it off with the original release of Anakin Skywalker in his Phase 1, you could say, appearance. This figure was repacked probably a couple hundred times, it felt like, during the Clone Wars line, up until Season 3 of the show, when our 3 main characters did get their new Jedi appearances. Sadly, we saw many of this kind of figure repacked into different battle packs, vehicle packs, whatever you want to call it. This one in particular comes from the AT-AP and AAT battle pack. It's a 2-vehicle pack that came out in the original wave of the Clone Wars for the Battle of Christophsis. It's a great set, really cool, because it comes with a lot of figures, but this Anakin Skywalker figure is not very good. It actually doesn't even have the Jedi logo printed on it. This figure has extremely limited articulation. As you can see, it is very, very mid. Alright, this one I don't necessarily dislike too highly, but it actually was featured in my recent haul video, believe it or not. But as I got more familiar with this figure, doesn't have a very good range of motion on the ball joint, and I'll show that in a second. But this figure in particular comes in a cool mini rig vehicle set, and I'm really happy I didn't pay the $50 for this pack because I really don't like the figure all that much. It's a little bit hard to tell, but it's a different joint, and it's not a custom hand. This actually comes with the figure because you can see on the other wrist, it's a white joint on the hand. So it's a different connection here on the figure, and it just makes for it feeling like it's just going to come out. But this is indeed his hand. Now, I was referring to the helmet being a little bit off, but it's got a really limited motion ball joint. Not 100% on this figure, but it is cool to still have in the collection. It checks off a box. All right. Now, this figure, I can definitely wholeheartedly say I'm not a huge fan of. And don't get me wrong, I'm not clowning on the aesthetic of this figure or the detail, paint apps. I am only looking at how the figure was designed and some of the choices that they made. One, this is obviously using the Commander Stone mold, but much like the Commander Stone mold, he has a removable helmet. It's a little bit more nice of a figure, and it's kind of one of those updated character models that they were doing that was a lot more accurate to the show, but gave you an extremely limited amount of articulation. So it doesn't make it easy to pose him, or if you're a kid, to really put him in cool positions to play with. The other thing I don't like is this is the first rendition of the Special Operations Troopers that you see on Geonosis. But this figure, in particular, the Stealth Ops, utilizes the stone mold, but then puts that helmet that we see in that episode with a removable piece in the back. The Special Operations Troopers on Geonosis, that piece is actually molded into the helmet. It's not a separate piece. So a lot of the times you'll see this figure loose without its headgear, and believe me, it's really a horrific sight. Mine is glued in, so that doesn't happen. Other than that, I do really like this figure, but if I had to stick it in the category of I'm not a huge fan of the stone mold, and I don't like when they have accessories built into their character that are easily losable. All right, this next figure is absolutely a diabolical one. This is the missile arm firing Yoda that released in the first wave of the Clone Wars line to kick it off. And yes, it is just not good. It just is an overall really awful figure, only aimed at kids. Does it look nice? Sure, it looks screen accurate, but You can't pose them. It's all hard plastic. It's very, not ideal for the average collector or kid that wants to have a new Yoda from their new favorite show. This figure in particular that is on screen came from the Coruscant Guard Battle Pack, and I'm pretty sure all Clone Wars collectors will know this truth. Alrighty, on to the next. This one goes for the Snow Captain Rex, the Snow 501st Trooper, the Flame Geonosis Trooper. This figure is just not good. It is another one of those figures with weird articulation, hands that do not hold the guns, and yes, a lot of accessories that fall out. And this is a perfect example of that happening. Yes, it's a really cool figure. It's an awesome design. Everyone would have loved to see some Clone Wars Galactic Marines in this stylization. It's one of those characters that you see once on and off screen. So I get it for budgeting. I'm sure they didn't want to throw a lot of money at modeling this figure, but hey, at least we were back in a day when they made figures for literally everything. But this figure is pretty bad just because it wasn't shown enough love. Sadly, that isn't the reality we are in. All right, now for this next one is kind of speaking for all the droids just because they're not made very well. I feel like Hasbro really always misses the mark for making the perfect droid because a lot of these droids, for the most part, really don't hold up the way you want them to. And what I mean by that is they can't even hold the blaster like they do in the show and movies. The arms obviously are pretty one-dimensional. It's very hard to obviously put them in cool gun positions, let alone get them to stand. Without a stand, this tactical droid I'm using, obviously for a reason, it does have ball-jointed feet, so you can actually position them a little bit better so he has more of a platform to stand on. But much like all the droids, they have that weird arm ball joint and really skinny arm piece where, yes, it will break. I actually remember taking a fresh one out of box, and simply by me removing it from the rubber band actually snapped off the entire arm of one of these droids. So I'm sure many other collectors have faced that, or maybe kids that wanted to play with their droid and it broke right after they opened it. Big sad energy, but that is why it is making the list for a figure that is just not very well made. All right, everybody. Now on to one that absolutely shatters my heart as a Star Wars fan, Clone Wars fan, and yes, a Captain Rex fan. They did his figure in Phase 2 armor so incredibly dirty. They gave him the really bad articulation. It makes it feel like a 5 POA basically, other than giving him the bend at the elbows. But still, these last two figures I'm doing as like a pair because I just have beef with how they decided to go about these figures, and you'll see momentarily. But just to touch on Rex, yes, I do know that the one released in Canada does have the bendy knees. That's also a very rare figure, but then again, you're buying basically the same figure just with bendy knees. Then again, I know the Clone Wars line was closing back then in 2012, and they just didn't have a lot of money for these figures, so I get why they probably stayed in with budget. But then again, they threw the budget at some other character, which made it seem like they were really going to go in on a resurgence with the line. And it actually shows you probably what they had planned for if Disney didn't can the Clone Wars TV show and the toy line itself. And that character is none other than Commander Cody. This figure is absolutely amazing. And I only put it on this list is because I have beef with it because, yes, Cody is a very important character. I'm not denying that. But the figure itself, I'm like, wow, this is such an awesome fig. Why didn't they give the same love to at least Captain Rex? I understand not doing it for Commander Wolf or Commander Fox. Anyway, but look at this Commander Cody head sculpt. It's very, very show accurate. It looks very good, and it fits on all the clones. Fun fact, I have mentioned this in my other videos, but under that helmet, we just have that wonderful Cody head sculpt. Every day, we're reminded that this figure definitely shows the trajectory of where the line could have gone had it been given a little bit more time to flourish. And I really think that it would have brought a lot of fans back to collecting the line if they were able to make other figures in that said line look much like this one. All right, everybody, here's a little class photo of the top worst Star Wars The Clone Wars action figures. All right, everybody, that is going to wrap up this week's episode. I hope you had a really good time watching it, and I can't wait to talk with you guys in the comments. Drop a like, and be sure to subscribe if you're new. We've been having a lot of fun, so I can't wait to hear any figures that you may think are absolutely terrible. Please let me know. And until next time, guys, stay real and peace out.